Hello, everyone. Welcome back. I am Kris. This is part 2. It's a different day. I think it's Battle of Eutaw Springs, 1781, how the Southern War collapsed before Yorktown. I look like I'm glitching a little bit, but we're going to roll with it. All right, so let's get into the video.
Known as the Fortress Peninsula of Gibraltar. Known as the Rock, Gibraltar controls the entrance to the Mediterranean, giving Britain a vital naval base to protect trade routes, project power, and blockade French and Spanish fleets. At the height of the siege, 60,000 allies will attack 5,000 British defenders in the largest battle of the entire war. In India, the French support Sultan Hyder Ali in his campaign against the British East India Company. The Mysoreans, with French artillery and European-trained cavalry, launch lightning raids that devastate company outposts and begin to seriously threaten the nascent British presence on the subcontinent. A defeat here could hand France the upper hand in India, reshaping the future global balance of power. Dutch fleets too, while small, contest with the British across Southeast Asia, the Far East and Africa, in a war for trade posts and future influence. In the Caribbean and Britain's most important overseas holdings, by 1781, Dominica, St. Vincent, Grenada and Tobago have all fallen into Allied hands, while Jamaica, Britain's crown jewel in the region, is seriously threatened. For the British, these losses are already devastating financially, with over a third of the value of their global trade coming from the island's lucrative sugar exports. Any further losses, particularly Jamaica, could soon become catastrophic.
Sorry, I was still reading that. Sugar is the most valuable commodity traded in the empire. Sugar prices in London double. Wow. Sugar imports drop by roughly 50%. Wow. Yeah. Okay, that's Santo Domingo. Saint Domingue? I said it as a question at the same time, didn't I?
Yeah, could soon become catastrophic. In the Americas, Spanish forces have made serious progress in Florida. Governor Bernardo de Gulvez gains a string of victories along the Gulf Coast, seizing Baton Rouge and Mobile, before besieging the capital, Pensacola, in March of 1781. Despite a spirited defense, particularly from Britain's Choctaw and Creek Indian allies, the final British defenses surrender in May. With the capture of Pensacola, British power in the region collapses, and the Mississippi and Gulf are secured for Spain. Across all of these theatres, Britain must devote tens of thousands of troops, numerous fleets, and huge quantities of resources to defend both Britain and their far-flung empire from America's new allies. Financial, political, and military pressure is mounting in this global war. And by 1781...
And when you think that it is a global war, the only place that they lost, the British, was the colonies. They won everything else. They just lost the colonies. And it turned into a thing of defending everything that they had to defend. I think, and this is my opinion, I think they just kind of gave up. It was And I mean, they gave up from the standpoint of, we know what's happening in the colonies. We're trying to fight Washington. He's running. He's not really fighting us. So we're just going to hold, try to fight everywhere else, win, and then come back. That was one thing that I think, that was a goal. But it got to be too much. And the British people had just had enough of the war overall. But, the British walked away. All they did was give up the colonies, but they were able to retain everything else.
1. Clinton and Cornwallis in North America can count on increasingly little in the way of reinforcements or vital naval support. Cornwallis and his army arrive in Virginia in May 1781, after marching overland from Wilmington. He hopes to take advantage of Greene moving south, while Washington is occupied in the north, and capture perhaps the biggest prize of the 13 colonies. Virginia is the wealthiest province, offering much-needed supplies and manpower the British now desperately need, along with a chance to break the deadlock by denying those same resources to the Continentals. British forces had arrived in Virginia at the start of the year, with Generals Phillips and the defector Benedict Arnold facing off against the Continental General, the Marquis de Lafayette. The British have taken or destroyed vast quantities of tobacco, freed slaves, and burnt property, in an effort to disrupt critical continental war supplies that flow out of the colony. Arnold has led much of the British efforts, including a raid against the capital, Richmond. In an infamous and vindictive move, Arnold and his loyalist forces burn much of the city, targeting government buildings and private homes of their enemies. A large bounty is promptly placed on Arnold's head for his capture. Cornwallis wastes little time and continues the successful raiding as his army swells to over 7,000 men. Tarleton is let loose on the countryside, and thousands of muskets, barrels of gunpowder, clothing, and all means of military provisions are captured or destroyed. Even the governor of Virginia, Thomas Jefferson, narrowly escapes capture in an early morning attack on Charlottesville. But other members of the Virginia General Assembly aren't so lucky. Lafayette, with just under
During the war, they also went at Jefferson's house. Is that what they just said?
on Charlottesville. But other members escapes capture in an early morning attack on Charlottesville. Thomas Jefferson captured or destroyed. Even the governor of Virginia, Thomas Jefferson, narrowly escapes capture in an early morning attack on Charlottesville.
So his home is in Charlottesville, and when they came to the house, he took off just in time and went to another mountain. Give me a second. I want to fix this glitch. All right, still not good. But what I was saying about Jefferson was, when you go to his house, when you go to Monticello, and you're talking to him, they're like, yeah, and right over there is the mountain that he fled to. He fled to another mountain in a distance, which not extremely far away. And he just sat up there and watched them ransack his home. So.
But other members of the Virginia General Assembly aren't so lucky. Lafayette, with just under 5,000 men, expertly shadows the British, being under orders to evade Cornwallis and protect what military stores they can. Cornwallis's campaign is going well, and he has the initiative, despite not yet fully engaging the elusive Lafayette. With his current momentum, Cornwallis is starting to seriously threaten the Continental War effort. He is adamant that the Allies must soon respond, and hopes that there will be a decisive battle in Virginia to decide the war. He writes to Clinton suggesting they join forces in the colony, but the strategic disagreements and miscommunication between the two generals is persisting. Cornwallis's decision to leave the Carolinas for Virginia had been against Clinton's orders, souring relations to an all-time low. And now Clinton is anticipating Washington will assault New York, where he has no intention of abandoning the city. To Cornwallis's dismay, in June he receives stern orders from Clinton to send most of his army north to aid in New York's defenses. Cornwallis's hopes for a decisive campaign in Virginia are dashed, and he begins to wind down operations. As the majority of his men prepare to leave, Cornwallis receives fresh orders in late June to instead support a joint offensive against Philadelphia. Cornwallis disagrees and writes to Clinton angrily over the plans, but begins to embark his troops nonetheless. Just as transport ships are set to leave Portsmouth, Cornwallis receives yet a new letter and yet new orders. A naval base is now to be established on the Chesapeake Bay, to be used as a springboard for undecided future operations. He is told to stop campaigning, dig in somewhere defensible, and await further instructions. Perhaps in this moment, Cornwallis finds himself adrift. Outfoxed by Greene in the Carolinas, hampered by Clinton's contradictory orders in Virginia, and fighting a war that increasingly feels uncertain or even futile. Instead of expanding British control in Virginia and seeking battle as he planned, Cornwallis now moves as commanded and entrenches his army on a lonely peninsula at Yorktown. In March 1781, a large French fleet under the Count de Grasse leaves Brest and begins to sail west. The fleet's departure goes abnormally unchallenged, with the Royal Navy occupied with resupplying the besieged garrison at Gibraltar and other pressing commitments. Admiral de Grasse moves with a significant fleet, fresh troops, and enough hard currency to fund the entire Continental Army for a full year. Such a force arriving in North America would mean that for the first time, the British fleet is outnumbered in the theatre. The French government had been growing weary of the increasingly costly war, but they had been begrudgingly convinced to send further support by the American ambassador in Paris, Benjamin Franklin. At White Plains, Commander-in-Chief of the Continental Army, George Washington, is elated with the news of the French fleet's departure. His army is in a poor state, and he faces increasingly critical supply and financial challenges made worse by the war spreading to Virginia. The threat of further mutinies, like in the previous year, hangs heavy on his shoulders. Washington quickly calls for a conference with the commander of French forces in Newport, Lieutenant General Count de Rochambeau. The two men meet at Wethersfield in Connecticut and agree to finally join their forces, creating a Franco-American army of some 10,000 men. Washington is adamant that the Allies should strike against New York, and the center of British operations in North America. Here he believes they can deal a final death blow to Britain's dominion in America. Rochambeau, although as polite as ever, has different ideas. He is skeptical of what could be a long and difficult siege against a well-defended New York. Rochambeau also recognizes that French support is waning, and he therefore wants to make the most of de Grasse's fleet, which may not return, and any temporary naval superiority they can gain. At the conference, Rochambeau instead proposes an attack against the more vulnerable British forces in Virginia. Washington, as Commander-in-Chief of Allied forces, has the final say, and the meeting ends with an agreement to focus on New York, while keeping the door open on an attack further south. As Washington begins to make plans for the Allied assault in New York, Rochambeau drafts a fateful letter. He secretly writes to Admiral de Grasse, making clear his preference for the upcoming campaign. For weeks, the two generals carefully observe British defences in New York, marshal their resources, and search for weaknesses. A letter finally arrives in July, bringing news from de Grasse. To Washington's, but perhaps not Rochambeau's surprise, the French fleet will arrive at the Chesapeake Bay off the Virginia coast in August, and not New York. De Grasse writes that he will only be able to stay for 2 months, giving the Allies a narrow window of opportunity for combined operations. With the news, the die has been cast on Washington's behalf. The general puts any personal frustrations with his French allies behind him, and forever the pragmatist immediately gives up on his plans for New York. Starting in earnest, Washington now begins to prepare for a campaign against Cornwallis in Yorktown. In New York, General Clinton, as Commander-in-Chief of British forces,
It's also, you're not going to get New York, you're not going to get Clinton, but we're going to be going down near where Cornwallis is. So we're not, New York is just, it's too difficult. But right now, Clinton has, I mean, they don't know this, but Clinton has extra men from Cornwallis. Cornwallis is dug in, I mean, in October, going into everything, he's winding down. That's the campaign at 1781. He's not even thinking about, he's just thinking about, all right, March, April, we fire this back up, and hopefully we can get something going if the war's not over, if we've done what we can around the world and we can focus on here, maybe we can knock it out. He's not in the mindset of they're going to, if anything, they're going to be attacking New York. So I think with de Grasse going down south, so to speak, I think that was actually a bit of luck, because I wonder if he did show up in New York, if Washington then could have leaned on Rochambeau, like, look, he's here, let's just do this. And I don't know if it's going to be overly successful. It's going to turn into a lot of people dying, fighting all through here, all around. Long day, sorry. So I think that it was just luck that de Grasse wasn't going to be going to New York. And I think that was another reason why Washington was like, we need to use him. He's not helping us. If he's down there, he can't come up here. Everyone's saying this isn't going to work. And I think that's where Washington was able to kind of get his mind right, in terms of not making it about, this is what I want to do, when everyone else is saying that we understand, we do, but no. And Washington, thank goodness, was good at saying, this is what I want to do. No. Really? What do you have? Like, why? And then they tell him, okay, well, what do you have? Well, how about this? How about that? And he's looking around and he's like, okay, let's do it. We got lucky. If you're an American, we got lucky with him, because a lot of things could have been different.
has been struggling to create a new, unified strategy for the war. Communication with his second-in-command, Cornwallis, continues to be fraught with tension over perceived and real slights between the two men. Throughout the summer, Clinton has been intercepting letters and gathering intelligence on Washington's plans for an assault on New York. Although the situation and threat level is continuously changing, decisive action is desperately needed if the British are to regain the initiative. Clinton's orders, however, become increasingly frantic and contradictory, and often arrive late and in a mixed sequence, further confusing his officers. At one stage in June, Clinton...
I'm going to go back just... 25th of June, send reinforcements to defend New York. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Sent the 11th, received June 25th. The 28th of June, send forces to join an attack against Philadelphia. My dude, you didn't... And then the next... Oh, I'm sorry. Wait a minute. June, May, June, July. The May thing threw me off. So, displeasure with Cornwallis's move into Virginia. Okay. Why'd that take so long for him to get? If you look at just the received, 25th of June, 8th of July, 12th of July, 12th, 20th, 25th, you get 3 letters on one day. Send reinforcements to New York. Okay, that's the 25th, to defend New York. Then he wanted more June 8th. Then he wanted again June 19th. He must not have received the forces yet. But now you also want him to send forces to attack Philadelphia. Wow, Clinton was just all over the place. Establish a naval base on the Chesapeake Bay, and then the next day establish a base at Old Point Comfort. Do you want 2 bases, or are you wanting this base and then it's changed to this base? I can't even... Displeasure with Cornwallis's move into Virginia. I don't know if Clinton really knows what he wants. Other than they didn't get along. So to me, it's just Clinton flexing the power that he had over Cornwallis. But yeah, I didn't realize. So I knew he had to pull troops away to defend New York. 3 orders. I didn't realize he had to send troops to Philadelphia, or maybe I just forgot. That's another big chunk of your guys. And they attacked Cornwallis, I believe it was maybe September, October. I know he turned over the fort. I think it was October. Wow.
At one stage in June, Clinton, in an attempt to develop some semblance of an offensive strategy, considers striking against Philadelphia and the vast continental supplies around the city. But he is also barely on speaking terms with the commander of the British fleet, Vice Admiral Arbuthnot, who firstly seeks a naval base in the Chesapeake Bay to support operations. The plans for Philadelphia are soon dropped as quickly as they were conceived. Communication between the British leadership, let alone combined operations, is starting to become extremely difficult.
Yeah, because Clinton's sending things out all the time. Wow.
And the infighting and bickering come at the most critical moment of the war, where British commanders could not afford to act alone. but were equally refusing to act together. In a tentative olive branch to the Navy, and in the absence of a wider strategy, Clinton finally sends the fateful orders to Cornwallis to establish a naval base at the entrance to the Chesapeake Bay, while he continues to prepare with the bulk of the army for the now abandoned Allied assault on New York. Washington, meanwhile, does all he can to convince Clinton that New York continues to be the target. He positions forces around the city, establishing camps, ovens, and artillery batteries as if in preparation for a long siege, while also allowing fake plans to fall into British hands. All the while, the majority of the Franco-American army start the 4-week-long march to Virginia in secret. The British completely fall for the ruse, and neither Clinton or Cornwallis have any idea of the Allied movements. French Admiral de Grasse, true to his word, arrives at the Chesapeake Bay in late August. The Allied plan to strike against Cornwallis at Yorktown is bold, and it still carries a potential fatal flaw. The British fleet is still very much intact and of a similar size to that of the French. Its whereabouts is unknown to the Allies, and without full control of the sea, Cornwallis can still be rescued or reinforced. As de Grasse disembarks troops and supplies, on the 5th of September, enemy sails are ominously spotted on the horizon. All roads are now converging on Yorktown, and the scene is slowly being set for the most decisive encounter of the American Revolutionary War. Thank you for watching our series on the
Oh, wow. I just can't get over all those orders that Clinton was sending out. I mean, he even had the Navy there. He had the Navy there to defend New York. But he wasn't talking to them. Wow. He really did weaken Cornwallis. Okay, well, we're going to end this here. I hope you enjoyed. And we'll be back with another one. So until then, have a good day, have a good night.